Okay, this is my debate of the week, and it's on Sasha Banks Chronicles. Now, let's put this in perspective. We know, if you don't know this, when a documentary is done, you never 100% see the truth. You don't. No matter how much people want to say this documentary is a true person you see on the screen, you don't. They only give you as much as they feel comfortable, and as much as the situation of whoever is making a documentary is allowing them to do it. Because there's no way the WWE is going to let them, or in this case, Mercedes, say exactly what she wants to say. She's only going to say so much because she has to be politically correct, not because for the people at home, but for the people she's working with. So let's put this in perspective, because I have to, as a reviewer of this documentary, I have to be able to find something that kind of makes sense to me in my own life. Because essentially, her road as well as my road have many similarities. But she's 24 and I'm 50. Well, not 50. I will be 50 soon. I'm 48. So we do have a lot of similarities that I've had a lot longer than she has. But I'll explain it as I try to explain what I thought of this documentary. We know now from this doc that she has been doing this since 18, if no one didn't know. And pretty much by the time of WrestleMania, she was so badly burnt out. Told her husband and a best friend, who is Pam, who is Bailey, she feels done. And both of them, her husband and her best friend, saying, look, if you feel burnt, go. There's no reason to stay. We don't want to see you unhappy. So she's gone. Takes time away. Tries to find a way to correct herself and to understand who she is. Look, in her life, she said since the time she was 10, the only thing she ever cared about was wrestling. Now, I can understand that myself. She went up in a bad home. I'm sure she grew up in a bad home. Either she had some type of bad parent or parents, or some bad situation with her parents. In my situation, I had that myself. And one of the few memories I have, and be honest, I have very few memories of my childhood due to the fact of such bad abuse from both my parents. It happened. One of the few memories I have is just like her, wrestling. One of the few times we sat down together when I was with my parents back in the late 70s and early 80s when WrestleMania came around. When it was 1984, when I was 13, the first thing I do remember is that scene back then when I saw Hulk Hogan come out along with Mr. T. And both my parents were there with me to watch it. One of the few times we were all really together as a family. Didn't last long, but that's the memory I have. A few years older than she is, but the point is, we both were very similar, that wrestling was the only thing we had that meant something to us. Well, for me, it was watching television to a certain extent. But wrestling falls under that, so that was it. But unlike her, where when she turned 18, she dove deep into wrestling, I didn't. When I was 18, the only thing I had was school. So basically, the only thing I ever had was going to school and then subsequently later going to work. So for her, she spent all those years in wrestling and pretty much forgot who she once was, being called Mercedes. She was only called Sasha. And by the time of WrestleMania, she was so badly burned, she didn't know who she was. Now, I want to make this clear. And I want to make this really clear that people are not going to understand the situation with Sasha. This situation was eventually going to happen. And I want to make this clear. If it wasn't when it was coming at 24, it could have been 30 or even 40 years old when this situation was eventually going to crop up. It will happen if you only focused on one thing and you tried not to think about who you once were and the life you had. No matter how much you love that life, eventually you're going to grow to hate it. It will happen. And this situation came much earlier than it needed to be because of one reason. And this is why I talked about earlier politically correctness. Because this was about the WWE. She wouldn't have reached this point so quickly if she was not treated so badly by the company. And this is the truth. Bayley was alright with it. She was able to deal with it to a certain extent because she wasn't being treated very well either. But when it comes down to it, when it came down to Mercedes, and I'm not calling her Sasha, I'm calling her Mercedes, out of respect for the woman, she got heavily burnt out because if you remember her run for 4 straight years, she had multiple titles that she never held longer than a few weeks. Every single time she went to a pay-per-view, they made her drop it. They made her drop those damn titles. They made her have multiple matches with Ruby Riott and the Riott Squad. They made her have a dead-end storyline with Bayley that was supposed to really originally mean them being at WrestleMania, which never happened, which had become a battle royal. Now, no, you could say I'm a fanboy of Mercedes. I love Mercedes. I'm not going to lie about that. But the thing about this is we've already seen how the company have treated people. Look at Jon Moxley. When he left, he wasn't just disgruntled. He was legitimately sick of the WWE because of how they treated him. Look at Pac or Pac. He got so angry, he left. Look at CM Punk. He got so sick of the situation, he left. Look at Batista. Look at what happened with so many people. You can say a lot of people have worked for the WWE and have gotten so badly disgruntled. Kaz, Enzo, yeah, they may have come back to NXT, but they were so tired of being treated so badly. They may have been willing to come back to the company, but the company at the time treated people, and they're still to a certain extent treating people like garbage. So, like I said, this situation with Mercedes would have eventually come up in time. Maybe when she turned 30. Maybe when she was in her mid-30s, nearing 40. It's a kind of a gift for her that it happened now. Because she's 24. And now that she's had this moment, it's a good one. It helped her. But I'm going to be honest here. And this is something that's not going to be talked about by many people, I'm sure. Being someone who's been in a similar situation where the only thing you had is just one focus, and if you love it or not, it's all you know. For me, well, for Mercedes, it's wrestling. It was her love. It was her passion. But it was the only thing she knew, and she grew to hate it. In my case, it was going to school and then subsequently working. Because for me, not making it about me, but trying to understand what she's going through and what she will go through. Because I went to school. I busted my butt at school. I wasn't a great student because I'm dyslexic. I killed myself at school. Had a bad family at home. Went to technical college. Met my wife. And that was after my mother had passed away due to complications to cancer. I legitimately was there the last time before she flew into a coma. She went to a coma and that was it. She never came out and she died. And with a few months, without having any encouragement from my biological father saying, look, we'll work this out. Yeah, I was in my 20s. But he was never there saying, don't worry, she's gone. We'll take care of each other. I'll be there for your son. Never happened with him. He didn't give a damn. He just didn't like me sitting around the house and said, go and do something. Get the hell out of the house. Not like a father telling his son, hey, you need something. I wish I can help you. I can't. Find an outlet. I had nobody to help me there. So I had to go and do something. So the only thing I knew was school. So I went to try and find a school. Met my future wife there. About a year and a half later, I married her. Went into the workplace. And that's where I stayed until my injury, well, my disease in my hip became so bad, I could no longer work. In between that time, I got divorced, met 2 girls that treated me like garbage. And then about the last time I was with my last girlfriend, where pretty much because I told her, hey, the relationship's a mess. Let's start over. Let's begin again. She thinks I don't want her, and pretty much she says, fuck you. I'm throwing away all your stuff. Don't ever bother me again. My life from that moment until I fell at the job was just blank. It was nothing. I felt completely empty. Like a Mercedes. She felt empty. She didn't care anymore by the time of WrestleMania. She was just blank. And then like her, I had to take a step back from my job, particularly when I fell at the job. For her, she went away for 4, nearing 5 months. For me, I fell at the job. I had to go to workman's comp. Unlike her, I could not go back to what I knew. But because I could not go back, it helped me a lot more than I ever could if I went back to work. For her, she went away, found the help she needed, and then she came back. But here's the difference between me and her. For me, it is still a struggle every day. I mean, it's not easy still being depressed with anxiety, not being able to work, being more used to working and being almost like a workaholic. Well, not being almost like, I am a workaholic. I do what I can to try and do the best things I can. I try to do these shows. I try to do animation. I try to make sure I go to my doctors. It's like being a workaholic again. But at least it's not just manageable. It's understandable because at least I have a support system, just like her. But there's one thing with Mercedes that's going to happen that not many people are going to see. She's going to relapse. I've had relapses of just letting my depression get me over. Taking me over, taking me over and stressing me out because of little things. It's part of depression and anxiety. You can get totally easily wiped out because of it. For her, it's going to eventually come back due to the fact the company is not working right. The reason she left in the first place was because the company is treating their workers so badly. She's fine right now, but it's only a matter of time before she's going to relapse. Now, here's the situation. We don't know if she's going to re-sign with the WWE. We don't know how long her contract is. I think she has 2 or 3 years left. So within the next 2 or 3 years, and understand, she had a choice between continuing staying home because they weren't going to let her break a contract or coming back to work. She chose to come back because she didn't really have much of a choice. Yes, she loves wrestling and she wants to wrestle. But technically speaking, she could not go off with any other promotion. She's trapped in the WWE. And just like I said in the documentary where she's being politically correct, she had no choice but to come back if she wanted to do what she loved. She loved wrestling. So I see that eventually this is going to come back again. Kind of like myself, where I can easily relapse into depression and anxiety. It's not easy, but unlike myself, I can figure a way to step back and work on myself. And even though I am bound by the situation I'm in, I'm disabled. I don't have a job. In most cases, I don't really have much family anymore. Even though I talked about my cousin. For me, I can always find a situation out of it even though I am trapped in this body with this injury. For her, it's going to be depending on her contract. Because no matter how much she can't stay in the WWE, she's still bound by that contract unless she wants to break it and go to court. She's stuck until she's freed. And that's where things are going to get interesting if she is going to legitimately leave the company within 2 to 3 years and not come back. Because she could resign. I'm not doubting what she said. Let's make this clear. And I want to make this clear to anybody. What she said she went through and the road she had to get back, I doubt she's lying about it. But she is not telling us what she's stuck in because she's still stuck in the same situation. Look how it was for Clash of Champions, the way she had to lose. Now, I know people are going to say, well, she is going to be in a better storyline. They're trying to build her up slowly. No. Honestly, no. If you're going to be honest, if the company realizes what the situation they're in really is, they should have had Becky drop the strap to Sasha and let Sasha be the one in charge. I know I'm saying Sasha now because I have to do this by character. But Becky should be chasing after her because as it stands now, as I said in my review, she has no one to work with other than Sasha. She doesn't. There are only 4 women who are allowed to do anything in the damn company. And as much as Mercedes, because this is going back to the documentary, she's proud of all 4 of the women that she worked, 3 women that she worked with, being one of the 4 that has reinvigorated people's interest in women's wrestling. She's not lying. She's telling the truth. But we got to be honest here. You have over 20 women on the damn roster for both Raw and SmackDown. You got about 20 women. Some are out on injury. Some are just sitting in the back doing nothing. Well, almost the majority are sitting in the back doing nothing. And this is what you're working with. You barely see any of the other women, but maybe, roughly speaking, 7 women. 7 women wrestle. You can't count Carmella. So you got 7 women out of a roster of almost 20 that are legitimately sitting in the back doing nothing. And the company is not willing to do anything with those other women but make them sit in the back, and they're only willing to do anything with 4. So eventually, this is not going to work out. Eventually, she's going to relapse. And I'm not wanting her to relapse, but it's going to happen because, like I said, this isn't just about something that was going to happen with Sasha. This situation with her was eventually going to happen. She was going to reach this point. But it was heavily accelerated because of the WWE's lack of understanding how to do their job. They are a wrestling company that does not allow their wrestlers to wrestle, to do proper promos, to do proper pay-per-views, and to legitimately treat them with respect without them getting so frustrated that either they don't want to wrestle, they start drinking heavily, and get themselves in trouble with the law. That is the truth. Let's be honest, it's the truth. But this is just my point of view. You guys tell me below. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace!